wake up, and the first thing you notice is the stiffness. Your knees protest when you stand. Your back carries a dull ache that wasn't there a decade ago. You look in the mirror and wonder, why do I feel older than my years? The answer might be hiding in plain sight, burning quietly beneath your skin. It's not in your genetics or your birth certificate. It's in the toast you rushed through this morning, the blue glow of your phone at midnight, the shallow breath you've been holding since your last stressful email. Scientists at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and the National Institute on Aging have spent years mapping what they call inflammaging, a slow, invisible fire that ages you from the inside out. This isn't about dramatic transformations or miracle supplements. This is about understanding that your daily choices, repeated over time, are either fanning the flames or cooling them down. Research reviews from the Harvard Chan School of Public Health describe how inflammatory signals like interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and C-reactive protein rise steadily after 40, creating a biological environment where joints stiffen, energy fades, and resilience shrinks. Stanford's Center for Longevity has tracked how circadian disruption and poor meal timing amplify these markers, while Yale's Dixit lab revealed that a molecular switch called the NLRP3 inflammasome can be turned on by stress, processed foods, and metabolic chaos. The hidden fire doesn't announce itself with pain or fever. It whispers through brain fog, stubborn weight, and that feeling of running on empty even after a full night's sleep. You might notice it in the way your hands feel puffy in the morning, or how your energy crashes hard around 3 in the afternoon. You might feel it in joints that ache before rain, or in an immune system that seems slower to bounce back from every cold. Maybe you've chalked it up to getting older, to gravity finally winning, to the inevitable slide that everyone promises comes with middle age. But here's the part most people miss. This fire responds to you. It listens to the rhythm of your day, the quality of your plate, the way you breathe between meetings. And that means you hold more power than you think. The research is clear. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is not an inevitable sentence handed down by your birthday. It's a conversation between your choices and your biology, and you get to shape that conversation every single day. I know a woman in Dallas, a corporate lawyer, 55 years old, who came to me exhausted. She'd been telling herself for 2 years that this was just what 55 felt like. Brain fog by noon, joints stiff every morning, sleep that never quite refreshed her. Her doctor ran her blood work. Elevated CRP, her inflammatory marker, sitting in the uncomfortable zone that's not quite disease, but not quite healthy either. She didn't want medication. She wanted to understand what was happening. So we looked at her day. Coffee before sunrise, emails in bed, breakfast grabbed from a drive-thru, lunch at her desk under fluorescent lights, dinner microwaved at 9 p.m. in front of the news, screens until midnight. Her body had no rhythm to trust, no signal that day was different from night, that rest was different from stress. Within 3 weeks of adjusting just her light exposure and meal timing, her sleep improved by 40% on her tracker. Within 8 weeks, her CRP dropped into the normal range. She didn't overhaul her entire life. She just gave her biology the rhythm it was begging for. What if the path to feeling younger wasn't locked behind expensive treatments or restrictive diets, but woven into the texture of an ordinary Tuesday? What if cooling the inflammation that's aging you could start with something as simple as stepping outside when the sun rises, or choosing the salmon instead of the breaded chicken, or taking 5 deep breaths before you open your laptop? The scientists studying longevity have found that inflammation isn't just about how long you live. It's about how well you live, about the quality of every year between now and 90. And the tools to shift that quality are already in your hands. They're not exotic or expensive. They're woven into the structure of your day, waiting for you to notice them and use them with intention.
So what if everything you've been told about aging is missing the most important variable? You. What if the invisible fire consuming your energy, your clarity, your resilience is actually listening to the signals you send every hour, and those signals can change, starting today? Most people think inflammation is something that happens when you twist your ankle or catch a cold. They picture swelling, redness, heat. They don't realize that the different kind of inflammation is unfolding every single day, shaped not by injury, but by rhythm, or the lack of it. Your body runs on an ancient clock, a circadian pulse that expects light at dawn and darkness at dusk. When you skip that morning sunlight and scroll through your phone under the covers, you're sending your system mixed signals. Your brain doesn't know whether it's time to wake up or wind down. Your cortisol rhythm flattens. Your melatonin production gets confused. Studies from Stanford medicine suggest that circadian misalignment can elevate inflammatory markers and disrupt hormonal rhythms that regulate everything from appetite to immune response. It's not just about sleep quality, though that matters deeply. It's about the timing of light exposure, the consistency of your wake and sleep windows, the way your body tries to predict what's coming next and can't. Think about what happens in your cells when you eat dinner at 9 p.m. and then breakfast at 6 a.m. Your body is trying to run its repair programs, trying to clear out damaged proteins and reset insulin sensitivity, but you keep interrupting the process with food. Your metabolism never gets a clean break. Your inflammatory pathways stay primed. Evidence from research institutions suggests that time-restricted eating, not as a diet, but as a rhythm, can help reduce baseline inflammation by giving your cells predictable windows of feeding and fasting. Your gut, that inner ecosystem of trillions of microbes, is listening too. When you feed it ultra-processed foods loaded with refined sugars and industrial seed oils, certain bacterial populations shift. The beneficial strains that produce short-chain fatty acids that talk to your immune system in calming tones start to decline. The opportunistic strains that release lipopolysaccharides, molecules that your immune system recognizes as bacterial threats, start to thrive. These LPS molecules leak through your gut lining and into your bloodstream, triggering a low-grade immune response that Harvard Health Reviews describe as metabolic endotoxemia. It's not an infection, it's your immune system reacting to signals from your own gut because the terrain has shifted. Harvard Health Reviews describe how a diet rich in polyphenols from berries, crucifers like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, leafy greens, extra virgin olive oil, and omega-3 fatty fish can shift the terrain back toward calm. These aren't just buzzwords. Polyphenols are plant compounds that your gut bacteria metabolize into anti-inflammatory metabolites. The lutein in dark leafy greens like spinach and kale supports not just eye health, but cognitive function, protecting neurons from oxidative stress. The lycopene in cooked tomatoes, especially when paired with olive oil, becomes more bioavailable and helps modulate inflammatory pathways linked to cardiovascular aging. The anthocyanins in blueberries and blackberries cross the blood-brain barrier and have been associated in research with improved memory and reduced neuroinflammation. Cytokines are just chemical messengers, words your immune cells use to talk to each other. When the conversation stays too loud for too long, when the signals keep shouting even when there's no real threat, that's when the hidden fire takes hold. And then there's the inflammasome, that molecular alarm Yale researchers have been studying for years. The NLRP3 inflammasome is a protein complex that sits inside your immune cells, waiting. It's designed to sense danger, damaged cells, bacterial toxins, metabolic stress. When it senses these signals, it activates, triggering the release of inflammatory cytokines like IL-1 beta and IL-18. This is protective when you have an actual infection or injury. But here's what the Yale team discovered. The NLRP3 inflammasome can be chronically activated by the very lifestyle factors most Americans over 40 are swimming in. High blood sugar from refined carbohydrates, oxidized fats from deep-fried foods,
Chronic stress that keeps cortisol elevated, poor sleep that disrupts cellular cleanup processes, saturated fats from processed meats that trigger a specific inflammatory cascade. When you eat a fast food burger with fries and a soda, you're not just consuming calories, you're delivering a package of signals that your NLRP3 inflammasome interprets as metabolic danger. The glucose spike, the trans fats, the advanced glycation end products from charred meat, the emulsifiers that thin your gut lining. Within hours, your immune cells ramp up their inflammatory output, and if this pattern repeats day after day, the inflammasome never fully turns off. It gets stuck in the on position. It's not broken, it's responding exactly as it was designed to, reacting to the signals you're sending it every hour of the day. The food that spikes your blood sugar, the cortisol that never quite comes down, the sleep debt that accumulates like interest on a loan you didn't know you'd taken out. Your body interprets all of this as threat, as instability, as a reason to keep the inflammatory response primed and ready. The truth is, inflammation isn't the enemy, it's a language. And if you can learn to speak it differently, through the cadence of your meals, the quality of your rest, the moments you choose to pause and breathe, your body will listen. This isn't about perfection, or about never eating cake again, or about becoming some Zen master who never feels stress. It's about consistency, about building a daily rhythm that your cells can trust, a pattern that signals safety instead of chaos. When your body feels safe, when it can predict the rhythm of light and food and rest, it doesn't need to keep the alarm running in the background. So what does that rhythm actually look like, translated into the reality of a busy life? What are the 3 pillars that can shift your inflammatory terrain starting tomorrow morning? Imagine your day beginning not with your phone, but with light. You wake up, and instead of reaching for the screen on your nightstand, you stand and walk to the door. You step outside, barefoot if the weather allows, and you let the morning sun touch your face for 10 to 15 minutes. You're not meditating or doing anything complicated. You're just standing there, maybe holding your coffee in your favorite mug, letting your eyes receive the full spectrum of natural light without sunglasses, without a window filtering the rays. This simple act, supported by research from Stanford and other institutions, helps reset your circadian clock, signaling to every cell in your body that the day has begun. Your cortisol rises gently in its natural morning peak, your serotonin pathways activate, and your internal rhythm finds its footing. The light you receive in the first hour after waking has more power to set your clock than light at any other time of day. It's not about sunbathing or getting a tan. It's about photoreceptors in your eyes, specialized cells in your retina, sending timing signals deep into your brain, into the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock, that conducts the symphony of your hormones and metabolism. This isn't New Age theory. This is circadian biology, documented in thousands of studies. Even on a cloudy day, outdoor light in the morning is 10 to 100 times brighter than your indoor lighting, and that intensity matters. Your body needs that contrast, that clear signal that day has arrived. If you live in Seattle or Boston and it's dark when you wake in winter, consider a light therapy box rated at 10,000 lux for 20 minutes with your morning coffee. Later, when evening comes, you create what some researchers call a digital sunset. An hour or 2 before bed, you dim the lights in your home. You switch to warm-toned bulbs or amber lighting if you have them. You step away from screens, or at least you use blue light filters, reduce brightness, and avoid emotionally charged content. No doom scrolling the news, no true crime documentaries, no work emails that spike your cortisol right before bed. You let your nervous system recognize that darkness is coming. Your melatonin production rises naturally, your core temperature begins to drop, and your body remembers how to prepare for rest. This isn't about rigid rules or never watching television again.
It's about honoring the rhythm your biology expects, the gradient from bright morning to dim evening that every human being lived by for millennia before electric lights rewrote the script. Think about this. For most of human history, once the sun set, the only light came from fire, from candles, from the moon. That spectrum of light doesn't suppress melatonin the way blue-white LED screens do. Your biology still expects that ancient rhythm. When you give it the modern equivalent, dim, warm light in the evening, you're speaking the language your cells understand. Now picture your plate at lunch. Instead of beige and brown, the colors of processed food, it's alive with the colors of whole plants. Deep purple blueberries scattered over Greek yogurt. Dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, and arugula. Crimson tomatoes, bright orange carrots, deep red beets, yellow bell peppers, purple cabbage. Each pigment carries phytonutrients, natural compounds that evidence suggests can modulate inflammatory pathways and support the communities of beneficial bacteria in your gut. The lutein in those dark leafy greens protects your retinas and your brain neurons from oxidative damage. The lycopene in cooked tomatoes, especially when you drizzle them with extra virgin olive oil, becomes more bioavailable and helps protect your cardiovascular system. The anthocyanins in blueberries have been linked in research to improved memory and reduced markers of brain inflammation. You drizzle extra virgin olive oil, real olive oil with a harvest date on the bottle, over roasted vegetables. You add a handful of walnuts or almonds to your salad for omega-3 fats and magnesium. You choose wild-caught salmon, sardines, or anchovies over breaded chicken fingers or deli meat processed with nitrates and preservatives. You swap white rice for quinoa or farro. You choose sweet potatoes over French fries. You're not counting calories or eliminating entire food groups. You're simply reducing the noise, the ultra-processed foods that flood your system with refined sugars, trans fats, emulsifiers, artificial colors, and additives your gut doesn't recognize and your immune system treats as low-grade threats. Harvard reviews indicate that this shift, sustained over weeks and months, can lower circulating levels of inflammatory markers like CRP and improve metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch gracefully between burning sugar and burning fat. Here's a practical example. The typical American breakfast of a toaster pastry and coffee with flavored creamer delivers a massive glucose spike, industrial seed oils, and virtually no fiber or polyphenols. Your blood sugar soars, your insulin spikes, your gut microbes get nothing useful, and your NLP3 inflammasome gets activated by the metabolic stress. Compare that to a breakfast of Greek yogurt with fresh berries, a handful of walnuts, and a drizzle of honey. You're getting protein, probiotics, polyphenols, omega-3s, and fiber. Your blood sugar rises gently, your gut microbes feast on the fiber and produce anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids. Your inflammasome stays quiet. Same amount of time, completely different biological signal. And then scattered through your day, like punctuation marks in a long sentence, you build in micro breaks for your nervous system. Between the morning meeting and the afternoon email flood, you step outside for a 2-minute walk. You don't check your phone, you just move. You feel the air, you notice the sky. You let your eyes focus on the horizon instead of a screen 18 inches from your face. You practice the 4-7-8 breath that Dr. Andrew Weil popularized. Inhale quietly through your nose for 4 counts, hold your breath for 7 counts, exhale completely through your mouth for 8 counts. Do this 4 times. It takes 90 seconds.
This breathing pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, by stimulating your vagus nerve. You feel the ground under your feet, the texture of the sidewalk or grass. You hear the birds, the wind, the hum of distant traffic. These moments aren't indulgences, they're recalibrations, chances for your vagus nerve, that long wandering nerve that connects your brain to your heart, lungs, and gut to send calming signals back upstream. The body remembers calm the same way it remembers threat.
When you give it consistent, repeated experiences of safety and rhythm, it begins to release its grip on the background alarm. This isn't about adding more tasks to an already overwhelming schedule. It's about weaving small, intentional pauses into the structure of a day that's already happening. A 2-minute walk, a 90-second breathing practice, 5 minutes of morning light. These aren't grand gestures, they're whispers. But whispers, repeated every day, become the loudest voice your biology hears. And over time, those pauses accumulate into something much bigger than the sum of their parts. Which of these 3 rhythms feels most doable for you? Morning light, a more colorful plate, or a 2-minute nervous system break? Pick one and try it tomorrow. Then come back and tell me in the comments which one you chose and how it felt. I read every single comment, and I want to hear your experience. There's a moment, weeks into these small shifts, when you notice something has changed. Maybe it happens on a random Thursday morning. You wake up and the stiffness is less. Your knees don't crack when you stand. You move through your afternoon without reaching for another coffee to fight off the fog. You catch yourself smiling at something small, a bird on the fence, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the taste of fresh strawberries at breakfast. It's not dramatic. There's no lightning bolt of transformation, no moment where trumpets sound and you suddenly feel 30 again. It's quiet, but it's real. The wildfire that was consuming you from the inside, that invisible flame you couldn't name but could always feel, has softened into something closer to candlelight, a gentle warmth instead of a destructive blaze. The inflammation hasn't vanished because inflammation is part of being alive, part of how your body protects and repairs itself when you actually need it. But it's no longer running the show. It's no longer the background noise that colors every sensation with fatigue and discomfort. You've changed the biological terrain not through deprivation or extremes, but through rhythm, nourishment, and presence. That woman in Dallas I told you about? 6 months after she started her morning light routine, adjusted her meal timing, and added those 2-minute walks between meetings, she told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I didn't realize how much I disappeared until I started coming back." Her energy returned, her mental clarity sharpened, her joint pain faded. Her follow-up blood work showed her CRP had dropped from 12 to under 2, solidly in the healthy range. But more than the numbers, she felt like herself again. She felt like the version of herself she thought she'd lost to age, to time, to the inevitable decline everyone told her was normal. It wasn't normal. It was inflammation. And inflammation, it turns out, is negotiable. The autonomy you've been searching for, the control you thought you'd lost somewhere between 40 and 50 was never in a supplement bottle or a prescription pad. It was in the accumulated weight of small choices, repeated until they became your new normal. Your body is not a machine that's broken and needs fixing. It's an ecosystem that responds to care, to consistency, to the signals you send it every single day. And when you choose morning light over the snooze button, when you fill your plate with color instead of convenience, when you pause to breathe instead of pushing through, you're casting a vote for the version of yourself that feels awake, resilient, and alive. This is not about perfection. Some mornings you'll sleep through the sunrise. Some nights you'll scroll too late.
Some meals will come from a drive-through window because life is complicated and you're doing your best. But the body is generous. It responds to patterns, not to perfection. It listens to what you do most of the time, not what you do once. And when most of your days include light, color, and breath, the biology shifts. The markers come down. The energy comes back. The mental fog lifts. The joint pain eases. The version of you that feels vital and capable starts to reemerge, not as a memory of who you used to be, but as a present reality of who you still are. The hidden fire that's been aging you faster than your years isn't destiny, it's feedback, and now you know how to answer it.
If this conversation stirred something in you, if you're starting to see how inflammation might be showing up not just in your joints, but in your focus, your mood, your energy, your sleep, I want you to watch the next episode in this series. It's called Your Brain on Fire: How Inflammation Hijacks Your Focus After 40. Because while we've been talking about your body, inflammation doesn't stop at the neck. It crosses into your brain, affecting your memory, your emotional regulation, your ability to think clearly under pressure. That episode will give you the other half of this picture. It's a simple morning to evening guide, a reminder of the rhythm your body is asking for. This journey doesn't end here. It deepens with every choice, every morning, every breath. You're not fighting against time. You're not trying to reverse aging or chase some impossible standard of youth. You're learning to move with your biology instead of against it, and that makes all the difference. Because the goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to feel alive while you're here. Please remember, this content is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The information presented here is based on general research and scientific literature, but it should not replace personalized guidance from qualified healthcare professionals. Before making changes to your diet routine, sleep practices, fasting practices, exercise habits, or lifestyle, especially if you have existing health conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, take medications, or have concerns about inflammation or aging-related symptoms, consult with your physician or a qualified healthcare provider to ensure these approaches are appropriate and safe for your individual situation and health needs. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of information you've heard in this video.